case anybody ever tries to kidnap you anywhere in the world. Later on, I'll share with you some other stories about other friends I know that have been kidnapped in other cities. Tip number 1 is try to avoid being kidnapped in the first place. Don't attract attention. Don't wear clothes with logos. Don't wear bright clothes. When you go to the tourist areas, scope everything out first before you go in. There's usually people waiting there to prey on tourists. So be aware of your surroundings. If you need to get some money out of the ATM, get money from an ATM that is facing the street and there are other people around, because you don't want to go somewhere that's isolated. It'll make it easier for people to rob you and kidnap you. Tip number 2, try to avoid using taxis. Walk or use public transportation as much as possible. And even Uber's cool, you can use Uber. But taxis are really dangerous. One of my friends got kidnapped in Mexico City using a taxi. He was with his partner. They got kidnapped and they basically got held hostage till his family in Los Angeles wired $10,000 for the kidnappers to release him. So a lot of times taxis are working with local kidnappers to make money off tourists. So I would avoid taxis if you're in an area where kidnapping is prevalent. Tip number 3, if you're driving a car, don't get too close to other cars. Leave at least one car space in front of you. I remember I was in Egypt once and I saw a car get boxed in by other cars. And I'm not sure if they were trying to kidnap the guy, but they boxed him in and they reached in, opened the window, they dragged the guy out of the car, and I don't know what happened. I didn't see the rest of it. But you want to avoid those types of situations. Leave some flexibility for yourself so that you can drive away in case you need to. Kidnappers will try to box your car in and then pull you out of the car. So also roll up your windows, lock your doors so they can't reach in and drag you out like the guy I saw in Egypt. Tip number 4, call 911 or whatever emergency phone number is prevalent wherever you're at and leave it on speakerphone so that the operator can hear what's going on. While the kidnapping is going on, yell out details so that it'll get recorded in the call. Like yell out, oh, I'm at the Hampton Inn in Panama on the corner of Figueroa Street and Alvarado. You know, the guys kidnapping me are 3 guys in their 20s, you know, Caucasian, blue eyes, whatever the case might be. Tip number 6. Now, if they're gonna tie up your hands and legs, there's a way to position your body so that it's easier for you to escape later on. Let's say they're gonna tie your hands up. You don't wanna comply by putting your hands together like this, as close as they possibly can. Because later on, when you try to wiggle out of the rope, you're not gonna be able to. So you wanna try to make some space. What you do is you cup your hands, kind of like this. So it appears that your hands are all the way together, flat, but you still have some space. So later on, when you relax your hands, you'll actually be able to slide one out. It'll make it much easier. Another thing you want to do is, aside from cupping your hands, is spread your fingers. By spreading your fingers out, you're actually activating some of the muscles here in your wrist, so you're making it wider. What that's going to do is give you more space. That later on, you can relax your hand and then slide one out. It'll make it much, much easier. Same thing with your legs. Same type of strategy. Don't bring your legs or ankles completely together. That's going to make it easier. Try to use the natural curves of your body to make space, just like this. So with your feet, you can kind of invert the bottom of your feet like this, so that way your ankles aren't able to touch. So don't allow your ankles to touch. It's going to make it hard to untie yourself. Roll your ankles, and you're going to make some space there. It'll make it much easier to untie yourself later. Tip number 7, if you get blindfolded and you're thrown into a trunk, pay attention to your surroundings. Make a mental picture of everything around you, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the time of day, the weather, if the wind was blowing. Pay attention to the direction your vehicle is moving. Do all this stuff so that later on, if you are able to escape and get to a phone, you can ask someone to come find you. You can call the police and tell them, hey, this is what I remember. and a local person may recognize some of the landmarks that you're mentioning. So try to remember as much information as you can and just stay cool. Obviously, it's not fun to be in somebody's trunk, but you want to try to make the best of it and be successful at escaping. So thank you again for listening. If you have any questions, please comment below, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.